and hopefully more will trickle in. So, anywho, I guess let's just go ahead and get started with introductions. Hopefully, most of the people in the stream know who I am. I go by Gaijin Goombah online. I have a show called Game Exchange, talking about culture and games. I work with Matt, Pat, and the other game theorists. I got a handful of my own little other shows, but that's pretty much it for me.
I'm Josh. I run the channel Really Freaking Clever, and my show focuses on the good parts of game design and focuses on looking at the positive side of gaming.
I'm Chris Niosi. Some people listening might know me better as Kerberfer. I do a lot of animation and things. Right now I'm working on a show called Tome, Trained Magical Expertise, and I've been doing lots of animation on Newgrounds and YouTube for a while. In the game world, I've been an animator on Skullgirls since 2011. I'm the casting and voice director for several games that have been funded on Kickstarter, like Cryamore, Soul Saga, and A Hat in Time. And I've had my hands in a whole lot of other stuff, including some things I can't talk about just yet. And that's just me.
Hey guys, my name's Rob. I'm the artist and animator for Rex Rocket, a Metroidvania game. And yeah.
Is that us?
That's you guys.
Yeah, you guys.
All 50 of you.
We're the Yacht Club, and there's a lot of us. So I'm Sean Velasco, and I'm like a designer, director type.
My name is Nick Wozniak, or you guys might know me as Woz. I do pixel animations and stuff like that.
Aaron Collin, I do concept illustration on Shovel Knight.
I'm David D'Angelo, programmer. And I'm Ian Blood, and I'm also a programmer.
Yeah, and that's all of us.
Woo! Good night.
Alright, so in this stream, I wanted to talk specifically about Kickstarted games, whether they have already been successful or if they're still in the process of. Just kind of talk about how they're influencing the industry, how they influence us as gamers, how it influences developers, so on and so forth. I'm going to go back and forth with one question for the internet personalities and then one for the developers. We'll do that a little bit, and then we'll open it up for questions from chat. So I guess with that, we'll go and get started. So first question, and this is for the internet personality people. What Kickstarter/Kickstarted games are you looking the most forward to, and why?
You want to go first, Josh?
Sure. Most I'm looking forward to, I'm a tiny bit biased, is probably Hat in Time, because I'm absolutely in love with that genre, and I absolutely love everything I've seen from that game. Yeah, no, I really liked Hat in Time, and I actually really liked Shovel Knight. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah! Good answer.
Yeah, my answer!
Totally not kissing ass.
Right.
No, I agree, but Hat in Time and Shovel Knight are both two genres of games that I'm very, very much a fan of, so I'm looking forward to both of those quite a bit. Mighty Number 9, obviously, and Shantae, which are both finishing up their Kickstarters in the next couple days, all look fantastic. I've been getting excited for Cryamore again because we've been doing some work on that recently, and just the whole team on that game, they're just so ridiculously talented, and it's just like a huge honor to be helping them out with stuff. So yeah, and I haven't played like a really good top-down RPG kind of like Zelda-esque game in quite a while, so that'll be a fun genre of game I'm going to be going back to. Excuse me, for the first time in a while. And yeah, I really can't think of like any game projects in Kickstarter that like I haven't been super enthusiastic about. Oh, you know what? Actually, there's another one by Toby Fox, who you guys might know. He's the guy that does all the main bits of music for Homestuck, MS Paint Adventures. He recently developed a game that I'm trying to remember the name of, but it's an 8-bit RPG game with a really like unique kind of battle system. Go look up Toby Fox Radiation, and you can probably find some information. I feel stupid, I can't remember the actual name of the game, but it was funded, and it's available to play, and so go look that up. It's really fun. So,
Well,
is that long-winded enough of an answer for you?
that's pretty good. As for me, if you had asked me, I don't know, maybe just earlier in the September, like, I would say, obviously, Shovel Knight's definitely, Rex Rocket, just because I've been able to be a little bit involved in there. But really, I can't think of too many that I'm not all that excited for, because I guess kind of with the advent of all the hype with Mighty Number 9, it got me digging and redigging back in the Kickstarter game, seeing what there was. And like we said before, Shantae Half Genie Hero, I think their Kickstarter wraps up in a couple days. Mighty Number 9 wraps up in a few days. Both look phenomenal. I can't wait personally to sit down with Shovel Knight and not only play it, but I really am excited to do a Game Exchange episode about it. Same with Rex Rocket. There's just so much out there, and really that's kind of what inspired me to try and get this put together, because I think it's something well worth talked about and explored a bit more than it already has. So, let's see. So for questions for developers, how much of an impact has Kickstarter been in helping develop your game?
Yeah, I mean, for us to even be able to do the project, Kickstarter was pretty much a necessity, right? Like traditionally, you would maybe try to pitch a game around to a publisher to secure the funding, or like there wasn't digital distribution like how there is now, so you would have to go through a publisher for that. Like it's not just Kickstarter, but like everything kind of all aligned at the same time to like free it up, right? And like maybe Kickstarter was like the last piece of the puzzle. Like there was like digital distribution made it so you didn't need like a big like supply like chain or whatever. And Kickstarter is like where the funding is coming from now. So yeah, it was huge.
And also huge in helping develop a community around the game and developing the interactions that we can have with people about the game. So
From the outset, when the game was
as soon as like the game was talked about, people are talking about it and we get to talk with them. So that's something that we can.
I mean, it's a huge boost in marketing too.
Right.
Like, Kickstarter has a base of its own, which allows we get to have people consume our product that way. And like normally we'd be pitching to IGN or Kotaku or whatever, and they just ignore us.
or maybe not. But yeah, that's the gamble that we don't have to take anymore.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So it's really like everything has been really positive. It's been enormous.
Yeah, I think for Rex Rocket, we didn't go on there for a whole lot of money, so we only went on there asking for like $6K. Both of us aren't full-time game developers, so it allowed us to kind of free up all our spare time. Like I got to drop all my freelance work. Tyler was able to not have to go get a summer job. He's a full-time student, so Kickstarter's really given us kind of the avenue to sit down and spend some serious time focusing on getting it completed. So
Fair enough. All right. I guess next question for Chris and Josh. How helpful or harmful do you think Kickstarter is to gamers participating in crowdfunding? I've heard, just to expand the question a little bit, I've heard some really odd stories and bad stories about smaller developers not realizing they're infringing on copyright, and they couldn't get the money back to the people that helped them kickstart, but at the same time, it's such a simple process to do. So what are your thoughts on this?
The worst stories I've ever heard have just been cases of like people taking money and leaving. I mean, or rather people taking money and then thinking it's plenty enough to develop their game, and then they're not able to deliver on that. And I mean that really just comes from poor planning. I think that there's a level of trust that comes with people who crowdfund, and the trust comes from, hey, this is our presentation, this is our Kickstarter or fundraiser, whether it's like GoFundMe or Indiegogo or whatever. I mean the presentation. And especially like if it's a case of just like, this is a game I'm building from the ground up and I'm selling myself on it, you have to gain the trust of the supporters and the people who are going to give you money to make this by showing that you're going to make something interesting enough that they want to give you money on, but also that you can deliver. Like it helps to like show the amount of team members that you have and like everyone on board and keep everybody updated on a constant basis of how things are going. Like all the best Kickstarters that I've seen have been ones that like, every week or so they're updating like, hey, here's what we've been working on, just to show that like we're not skimping out on the support that you've all given us, and and they make it into like something fun. They make like an event of like, hey, today we're working on this level and check out this little quick video of this bit or whatever, And so I think it's about formulating like a level of trust with the with the people that trust you enough to pay you money to help accomplish your project in the first place.
Yeah, I definitely say that like that's one of the most important things. Like to me, if I want to fund a Kickstarter, is like I would prefer it if the developers like kept involved with it and kept doing like updates and stuff, and at the same time, there's kind of always a risk with it. Like, I think it was a story just last week, that Clang project fell through, and a lot of people were upset about that, and it's kind of scary, because technically, like, whenever you support a Kickstarter, you're investing kind of in the project. Like, you're not directly buying a copy of the game, and, like, you're not guaranteeing that it's going to necessarily be made. And like in a perfect world, all the games that like are successfully funded would be made and like accomplish exactly what they said they would. But so that's why I think it's really important that you need to like build up the trust that yes, we're going to build this game and we know how to use the money and we know that like we're not going to go over budget and miss out on stuff or have to cut features that we already promised.
Right. Well, I think it's important that developers do their homework on that stuff too. Like, we've been working at like professionally as game developers for quite a while before we embarked on this. So we had a little bit of experience when it came to like scoping a project and figuring out how long it's going to take to do certain things. And like even with our experience, we're usually like way off, So yeah, when you're promising the sky, I think that's probably the experience of many Kickstarter developers. Is you have people clamoring for stuff, right? It's like, oh, we want a port to a console, or we want like all this stuff, and you think, yeah, okay, well, yeah, we can promise that, like, we're getting like this is so much money, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars, but then when you start to divvy it all up, it doesn't always work out like that. So yeah, I think it's just really people just have to be really careful and do a good job scoping everything also starting.
I think for me, and this is really, really unusually specific, but when it comes to remakes or spiritual successors, like A Hat in Time, Mighty Number 9, and River City Ransom Underground, which I think is still going, I think we as gamers and possibly even the developers have to be really, really careful about what it is that they're promising. One of the things that I've been a little bit cautious, I suppose you could say, of when it comes to Mighty Number 9 is we've seen conceptual art and notes, and the team has been 100% transparent in what it is that they're doing and putting together, but we haven't seen any sample gameplay or anything to that matter, and it makes me wonder if people are getting hyped for a Mega Man game if it's not necessarily going to be as Mega Man as they want. And I don't think that's going to be a massive problem. I don't foresee that. But when it comes to people trying to get rights and either remaking or making successors to games or genres that are very, very close to people's hearts, it's definitely it can be playing with fire.
Well, I mean that's fair, and I'm sure doing a Kickstarter without game and having your presentation video not include game footage, like that's a risk for anybody to take. I think that the Mighty Number 9 folks, being a tremendous collection of veterans from the industry, like real, like major veterans of the game industry doing it, that's a risk that they are, in a position that is easier to take, for one thing. And even so, even if say your point stands of like maybe it won't necessarily be as like Mega Man of a game as people are probably thinking it's going to be. The fact that they're so reputable and have made so many good games in the past promises that even if it's not exactly what people would think, it's still going to be a really, really solid game.
Sure.
So they can kind of, quote unquote, get away with that in a sense,
Well, and that makes complete and perfect sense. Because I did a video before discouraging people from pre-ordering, and basically in a way that's kind of what this is. But because the team behind it is so stellar, and they've been keeping the public in the know so closely, I don't see any problems with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think one of the misconceptions about a Kickstarter, or about Kickstarters in general, is, that they are a pre-order for a game, right? But, it's totally not a pre-order. It's, you're pledging an amount for a reward, and, that reward could just never show up. Like, the team could just fall apart, or they could just walk off with your money, and there's, not a whole heck of a lot you can do about it.
Or the game could just turn out to be something different than what you expected.
Yeah,
sure.
Right.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Specifically for the developers, what were some complications in putting together and executing your Kickstarters?
For Tyler and I think the biggest issue was just kind of getting the word out there that, we were actually running a Kickstarter. Emailing, news websites and trying to get in touch with pretty much as many people as possible to let them know about it was a lot more work than I had anticipated. So when it came down to doing all the emailing and writing press reviews and stuff like that, just really consumed a lot more of my time than I thought it actually would. So I think for us that was the biggest hurdle, was just finding the time to run the Kickstarter and promote it.
Yeah, we ran into a similar problem. It was not realizing how much time and actual effort it was going to take to do a Kickstarter, which
putting the all of our time.
Yeah,
all of our
right. All 5 of us working full time every day for 7 days a week for a whole month. It was crazy.
Yeah, and then on top of that, putting the Kickstarter together, the initial, just getting the Kickstarter video together, figuring out what the reward tiers were, doing the thing like we were talking about, scoping the game out, figuring out what's the bare minimum that we could do this for, what do we think, where should we set our goals at, all of that stuff was so, it was very involved.
Yeah, it takes a lot more effort. It's deceiving.
Yeah, and during that time, you're going out to the press. You're trying to get out demos. We had our PAX thing. PAX East took place during our Kickstarter. We did that on purpose, so it would be at the same time, so we could get more promotion. But that meant that we're located or most of us are located in Southern California, so we flew out to Boston during our Kickstarter. And we had to have our demo, we had a playable demo during the Kickstarter, so we were feverishly working on all this stuff as we were trying to run the campaign. It was just, it was crazy.
But that paid off. You guys made 3-4 times the amount that you asked for in the long run?
We did 4 times our goal, and in that time we also met so many people and had people come out of the woodwork to help us, and having Manami and Matsumai do some songs for us. That was not planned in the beginning of the Kickstarter. That was during the Kickstarter. Yes, exactly. It was a result. So we had people just getting excited, coming out of the woodwork, doing promotion for us. We had people that were excited just about the game, right? Like, or press people that are like, I want to make it my personal mission that people know about this, right? So, yeah, it was amazing, but it was a whirlwind, and it was an incredibly huge amount of work for all of us, I think.
Fair enough. Okay, so next question. And I suppose this could go for everyone.
There's some overlap happening, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's happening anyway. What do you think the future of Kickstarted games are, both as us as gamers and then you all as developers? Like, where do you see this going? Or is that too vague?
No. I'm a little concerned that the government is gonna get involved in Kickstarter, or something's gonna happen. Like somehow publishers are gonna band together and get involved in a way that means that you can't work without them, or I'm worried that big business is gonna come in and corrupt it, and I'm worried that it's gonna happen too soon.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I have concerns about that as well. Although, I do think that just in general, that indie games and them getting crowdfunded is kind of like the way of the future for games, because I feel like the game industry is in kind of a weird place right now where it's doing very well because video games have become more mainstream than they ever have been in a really long time, which is in some ways a good thing. But in some ways, it's not great because there's a lot of stagnation in what the big companies think needs to be made in order to fit demand and what will do well, etc. There's all this kind of preconceived notion of it. And it applies to a lot of different businesses and entertainment as well. But indie games have this sensibility of hey, let's make something really unique and original, and something that that the rest of the game industry isn't necessarily making. I mean, you don't see a million, and I'm not going to name names or whatever, but you don't see a million Kickstarter game projects for, grungy, first-person shooter kind of games, right?
Yeah.
There's a few
with movie celebrities attached, anybody gives a shit that Willem Dafoe and on page or any video game. But
the graphics, man.
Whatever. Maybe that game. I don't even know what it's called. Maybe that game will be great. So what the hell am I talking about? But the point is, I think that indie games are going to be the future because they have a very different kind of, more purified kind of mentality of people that really get games, from a gamer's perspective and not a mainstream consumer's kind of perspective. And that just provides a lot of really fresh ideas, and just look at how many original, cool kind of even if they're a type of genre that we've seen a lot of, they still have even just one thing that that really separates it apart. It's something really cool that would make me want to pay money to see this just happen, let alone get a copy of it.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking about. I've been able to get kind of a beta build for Rex Rocket, and Rob, one of the things that really caught me off guard when I started playing that was how at first I thought, okay, this is going to be a little bit more lighthearted, it's going to be a little bit more funny, especially when it comes to Mr. Bubbles and other concepts like that, and then you get out of your cryo sleep and it turns into freaking aliens, and I'm like, this game just got real dark real fast, and I did not see this coming. And I suppose, the same could be said about Shovel Knight, is that there are so many things that it encompasses that we're familiar with, but at the same time, by putting them all together, giving it the story that it has, the look that it has, it feels really fresh. And the other thing, too, as for me, I'm on a really tight budget. I'm still trying to grow, doing what I'm doing, and rubbing elbows with people, so I'm really limited on what I can get as far as games go. My wife and I said we can't drop more than $40 on a game until things pick up. And when it comes to indie games, it just fits that niche so well. Because the economy is really hard on a lot of different people right now, and we can't all go out and drop $100 to $200 a month on new games coming out. So I think there's a whole lot of benefit in that as well. And Chris, like you said, the fact that there's so much uniqueness and freshness going on here, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Uniqueness, that's a good word.
Yeah, the way I see it is that all the huge publishers, like, their bottom line, they all seem to just want to try and make the next Call of Duty or something. They want something that's going to sell, like, tens of millions of copies in one day and stuff, and so they just keep shooting for the same stuff over and over, while, like, the smaller developers, they seem to be the ones that are actually experimenting, and, like, they're more flexible with stuff. Like, there's a huge array of genres that, like, much wider array of genres that the indie guys are going after, and they're able to be flexible with the price points. I remember reading somewhere that, like, the revenue that they got from the $20 copies of Torchlight 2 was the same as the $60 boxed copies of Diablo 2 would have given. So they got the same amount of revenue, but the savings went to the consumer because they went on Steam and didn't have to pay for, like, boxed copies and, like, instruction manuals and stuff.
Well, yeah, and on top of that, I mean, we don't need to sell 1 million or like 5 million copies of Shovel Knight to be a really big success and continue to make games.
Exactly, like,
so we can have a smaller audience, or we can have a like we can do something that's a little bit more, that's like a little bit more, I guess, different from what you would see normally, and it's okay. Like, we don't, because our audience doesn't have to be the absolute most massive audience in the entire world. You know, not that we wouldn't want everyone to play Shovel Knight, but yeah, we just don't need to do numbers like that. So it frees us up for sure.
Yeah, there's a sense of dedication and, like, personal kind of experience with the people that do that too. I mean, like in my case, and I haven't delved into game development yet, but I mean, like, for me, like, with animation, I don't have, like, millions of subscribers. I'm not on the level of, like, a Chris O'Neill or, you know, or a Psychic Pebbles, etc., that kind of thing. You know, and they live off of their ad revenue. They have millions of subscribers and views. In my case, you know, I'm lucky if I get to, like, you know, a 6-digit view on a cartoon, but the dedication that I have from the people that like the show that I do, because it's very different than the type of stuff that you expect, you know, in terms of animation on, like, YouTube or whatever. You know, the dedication is like, hey, I'm gonna give out, like, cameo background characters based on people who, like, donate, and then I have, like, you know, I'd say that I have like an eBay auction for, hey, if you win this auction, then I'll create a character based on you, the viewer, and you'll get to make a cameo in the next episode of my show. And people value that enough to want to donate enough to win that auction. It's like, hey, like that's, I don't have 1 million subscribers, but I have, like, very dedicated viewers that like and appreciate what I do. Yeah. And in the case of, like, you know, really, really strong indie development companies that are very reputable, you know, there's people that will, I mean, even like, look at WayForward, not that they're, like, indie or whatever, but it's like, they have a very kind of, like, indie mentality, and, you know, that goes to show with the Shantae Kickstarter. Their fan base is so dedicated, and they love everything that they do, that, you know, they can find great success off of just, you know, doing what they do and having the people that appreciate the stuff that they do and supporting them, you know? So.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, being indie is that you having that personal touch. So, like, you can have the real connection with your fan base, and that's something that we're discovering is extremely valuable to us, both personally and just as a business.
I mean, so, yeah, it's been so good when we were working on licensed games, when we were working at WayForward, we didn't have the opportunity to interact with our fan base before the game came out, and then when it came out, then when it came out, it didn't matter. Just like, on to the next game, finish. Mm-hmm. And, like, now we have such a personal connection. People have sent us people sent us a perler bead Shovel Knight, like a pixel Shovel Knight that was, like, perfect.
Yeah, that's sweet, awesome.
Yeah, we got a pixel painting of Shovel Knight, and people have been so cool making fan art and, like, being involved. It's overwhelming, and it keeps us going.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the beautiful thing about this two-way street, is that, for me, I've been able to reach out to, you know, with you all at Yacht Club Games, with Rob, with Jonas, I've been able to do some content, or at least planning on doing some content with my show that basically is saying to the people that watch my show, this is really interesting, and here's kind of why. And what makes it so great is that the indie developers really seem to understand the importance of it and encourage it. It's really, really hard for us to get a hold of larger companies, larger publishers, etc., etc. But it's just an absolute treat to be able to work with the people who made the game to basically help promote it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course, we appreciate that so much. First off, that the outpouring of support that we've received just from the media also has been really cool.
It's like just like this one.
Yeah, exactly. Like we've had the opportunity to podcast, and we've had the opportunity to meet with other Kickstarter developers, right? Like we would never like hang out with a bunch of other developers all the time, and like interact with other developers, kind of before the whole Kickstarter revolution. But now it's a combination of people wanting their Kickstarter promoted, and since we did one that got funded, we have people asking us like, hey, how did you guys do it? Or we're trading tips back and forth, or like for Hyperlight, or like Waz, you've been doing stuff for that, right?
Well, yeah. I was a fan of Hyperlight Drifter because we were part of this Kickstarter.
Right. Yeah.
They opened the door that we could just talk to them, right?
Right. Yeah. Have you guys heard of Hyperlight Drifter?
That sounds really familiar.
Sure. It does sound familiar.
Yeah. What do I know that from?
A super awesome Kickstarter. Like the pixel art style is like amazing.
Yeah, it's sort of top-down, kind of Zelda/Diablo looks to it, describes it. But it's really unique, and I liked it a lot, and I just said, hey, I think this is cool, I want to help out. And he said, yeah, sure. So like I did some animations for him, and it was just a total, like, I don't know, collaboration, making the industry seem smaller. And that is totally new, and could not have been done in a different company at all.
Well, there is such a bro mentality with it. I look at, like, Dust and Lycian Tail has like Super Meat Boy in it, and other little cases like that. It's like, that's cool. It's like everything is all kind of interconnected because it all is so personal, and like everybody's real, and they're not just a bunch of people in a cubicle in Seattle or whatever.
Yeah,
that just
it's
put out
like a community. Yeah.
Or if they are, they're at least doing it on their own terms.
Yeah.
Let me wrap this up with just two more questions, because I'd like to have some time for the chat to ask some of their own. This one should be pretty quick, though. A friend once told me we're eventually going to see more Kickstarters for games than announced mainstream games. Do you think that's true? And with the mentality of the mainstream industry seems to be getting more and more bloated because it's costing more to make the games than they're getting as far as income received.
I don't know if it'll ever outweigh the actual big budget studios, because they always find a way to maintain themselves. I mean, they're not really going anywhere, and I think there will be more. I think there will be more crowdfunded games in general popping up because it's continuing to be so lucrative for everybody. But I don't know if it'll ever like outshine mainstream stuff.
Well, and I think we've yet to see Kickstarter pay off for anyone yet, right?
Yeah.
Like the first Kickstarter was the Double Fine, or the first big one was like the Double Fine game, right? Like Shovel Knight, we're most of the way, or we're more than halfway through development, but there's no guarantee that we're going to make money on this project, right? Like if nobody bought it,
you can't look at somebody else's example and say,
right? No one has released, or not a lot of people, I would say. Like FTL came out, that's been like really huge and successful, right? But just because you do a Kickstarter that gets funded, it doesn't mean that you're gonna make money or you're gonna do it. It really is like a I don't know, like it's a gamble, right?
We're still in like a pioneering stage of what.
Yeah.
So maybe as people are like people are becoming a little bit more wary, and developers are also becoming a little bit more wary, just in general over time. So maybe like Kickstarter will stabilize a little bit more, like with fewer of them, but they'll be more they'll be more like professionally put together.
Yeah.
Maybe like like is there going to be a middle? Is there going to be like a gaming middle class? Because right now it's like the indies and like the big huge guys, and the middle like a THQ, right? Like a mid-sized publisher. Those guys are all gone now. So
Yeah,
it's like,
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that like the big style games are gonna be like getting smaller than Kickstarter, because even like I forget how much the Double Fine made, but it was only like just over 1 million or 2 million or something. Does anyone? Yeah. And meanwhile, like stuff like GTA 5, they put 250 million into that.
yeah.
So like the big budget games have a way bigger budget than anything that anyone on Kickstarter is doing, which can work out like either way. So I don't think we'll see it go away.
Yeah, GTA 5 sales in like the first day, I think, are ultimate proof of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can work. But like even like Mighty Number 9, right? A game that's going to be rendered in full HD 3D with like nice character models, and it's a large scope game. When I see the budget that they have there, as some like I think as a group that has done this type of thing before, like we know what game budgets are. Like the budget that even the budget they have seems kind of like, ooh, yeah, that's like, are they going to be able to do it? Like it's a little bit scary without putting more money into it.
I think they can. I think that they can pull that off, because those guys are so smart in game development. Like they're just, I mean, not, you know what I mean. But I think they absolutely know what they're doing, and I think that they'll make something really great with what they have, like undoubtedly.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, one more question, then we'll open up for chat. Do any of you have advice for future developers wanting to use Kickstarter to crowdfund their game projects, whether it be from the perspective of the person who is giving money to the Kickstarter or the person who is creating the Kickstarter?
Like we can talk about that, and we have talked about that over email with lots of Kickstarter people, like for hours upon hours. I wonder, what's the big stuff?
If you had like a general like big piece of advice for like anybody, like a big thing to keep in mind, or maybe like a pitfall that you didn't expect when you were doing yours.
Well, one of the things that we've seen has been really successful is making sure that people get a good understanding of what the game is for the game itself. If you don't have a big name to sell your game, you have to just rely on the game itself. Something that really draws people to the gameplay of the game itself, or draws people into the world, or really sells the game, as opposed to just selling like the team. You know what I mean? So like a Kickstarter videos that I see that are just the team talking, and they may be heartfelt and great. What really sells me on a Kickstarter personally is seeing the game shown off, seeing the world really explored, and seeing the love that was put into the actual product. Because the team could be great, but if the product's crappy, then I don't really care.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it really is about the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you kind of have to put your money where your mouth is and show off something that gets people excited in a unique way.
Yeah, there are a few exceptions, but for those that are just looking to start a Kickstarter, that's the general rule to follow.
Yeah, and it's just like being upfront about what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like if someone can go to your page and know what your game is all about and decide whether they want to buy it or not, like within 2 minutes or whatever.
Then you do your job.
Yeah, or 10 seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds is
yeah.
really. I'm not sure I look at most videos. I think when I open my Kickstarter page, I don't know about you guys, but I'll just like scroll through the page, look at what's there, and see if I'm getting a good feel, and then I'll watch the video, because the video is like way more of a time investment, right? I'm not just like glancing at a Kickstarter page.
Yeah.
I want to feel it like immediately. So like that splash image on the video is super important. The rest of the page in general is super important.
Yeah.
And the video is good as a cap for it. But
And just like being real about what you're making and who you are, right? Like we love platformers, we love Mega Man. Like this is like we've made games like this before. Like Shovel Knight is totally a game that we've been wanting to make a game like this. And so our excitement and our enthusiasm throughout this entire thing, I think, kind of like rubbed off on people, right? It's like we just can't shut the hell up about Shovel Knight people like that.
I had a quick little sort of like follow-up question to what was just asked. So like so say you have all the pieces in place. You have your budget. You have the team ready to go. You have a plan of how to just go about it and just start making it over the course of, however much amount of time it'll take to develop it. For distributing, because I know that, like, obviously getting dev kits for consoles, handheld and like main platforms, it can be very expensive, and then even Steam Greenlight can be tricky because you have to make sure that that's all in the right place as well. So there's never any definite guarantee. Even more so than like getting the money you need to make it, there's never any guarantee of having a platform to put it on. So like, what's something to keep in mind for that? If like, you have all the resources you need to make the game, but in terms of distributing it and putting it on something to where people can actually play your game, what's something to keep in mind for that? Would you say?
Well, I mean, it helps. I think it helps to be like legit, right? Like for a platform holder. If you've worked on a game before, or if you have something that looks really cool, or you have like your business is put together and all that, I think like someone like Nintendo, they're really excited to work with indies right now. They've been like really super good to us. So I think they would do the same thing for another game that looked cool, or for another company. But yeah, if you like.
Reaching out, getting in contact with platform holders.
Right, just talk to them. Like right now, everyone is so willing to hear stuff. Like what else?
As far as the platform-specific stuff, I mean, it's good to be on as many platforms as you can, but like having a focus definitely helps with having the fan base kind of like get around it as far as that goes. Like there are certain people that will back something just because it's on a Nintendo console, or just because it's on PlayStation, or
right.
Steam, the same thing.
And for Steam, right? Like if you did a Steam release and you pushed super Steam like forward, right? Full steam ahead. Then at that point you have more people going to your Greenlight page, and you could focus on that area, right?
Yeah.
But they just greenlit like 100 games on Steam Greenlight, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's going to be a little bit easier for indie devs to get on there. So maybe, or hopefully, that won't be so much of a worry.
Well,
there's one more thing. The Humble store, right, has been like I almost feel like I should give them a shout out just because they've been so good to us. Like as far as distribution goes, like if you could probably get through to Humble and they would put the game on the store like without too much. Yeah, like so I imagine almost any game that was like put together, like they would distribute it, right? And they're super fair about everything, and you can put you could have like one of those widgets on your website.
Yeah,
and, like,
it's good back end for just Kickstarter in general.
Yeah, like that's a really great distribution method. So yeah, I mean,
if you're doing Kickstarter, get in contact with Humble.
Oh geez, yeah, no kidding. Yeah, if you're doing a Kickstarter, talk to the Humble people.
Sweet, nice. Okay.
Just something I want to throw out, just really, really fast. Do you think that Kickstarter might get oversaturated with people trying to put games together?
Basically, already is.
Yeah, really.
That's fair.
I think that as more people have major success on Kickstarter, you're going to see a lot more people going on there trying to pitch an idea. But you know what? The Kickstarter does have moderation. If an idea doesn't look polished enough, it doesn't get on the site. So, but yeah. I could see that becoming a problem in the near future.
Well, it sort of already is. I don't go to Kickstarter to look for Kickstarters. I kind of like hear about them through IGN or Destructoid or whatever.
Right.
Or what?
Word of mouth.
Oh yeah, word of mouth, definitely. So it's like I'm not sure if it's oversaturation or just Kickstarter's not really set up for that.
I think like there's going to be more like curated content. Like it'll be like there'll be some Kickstarter website where it's like all the cool Kickstarters all in one spot. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, really. You know what? I'm waiting for more sites to show up with Kickstarter-like features. Like I've seen word that Steam might start incorporating some of these crowdfunding features and pre-ordering directly into like the Steam experience. So.
Right.
Okay. That could be cool.
Yeah, they have early access already, don't they? Like.
Oh yeah.
you can fund like the alpha or beta of a game and play that. Like State of Decay is doing that at the moment.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that maybe not. It might not be on the Kickstarter website, but you're going to see more crowdfunding features popping up, on other sites, other gaming sites.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe there'll be like a new gaming focused Kickstarter style of crowdfunding site.
You'll drive Gombah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Blackboard and things like that.
That would be so awesome. It's like purely, there's like purely 4 games.
Like the Twitch style.
Oh yeah, the Twitch offset adjustment.
Or I think, like if Steam got involved with that kind of stuff, then it's like, look, you already have the distribution platform built in, right? That would be so shitty.
Yeah. That's the thing about Steam is that it's like, on Kickstarter you get all these different people looking at all the categories that they have on Kickstarter, but on Steam it's just nothing but gamers. So it's like that's your primary audience, and it's not diluted by all these other categories on there. Yeah. I don't think that all the Steam users go to Kickstarter at all. So I think that if they pipe that into Steam, it'd be a lot nicer. I think a lot more games would find more success with finding funding.
Well, I hate to cut you guys off, but I would like to squeeze in some questions from chat. So guys, for those of you listening, if you have some questions, go ahead and pop them in, and I'll grab a handful of them. We'll see how this goes.
I unfortunately have to go now.
Okay.
All right.
Josh.
I'm sorry, guys.
We didn't want you anyway, Josh.
No, thanks for
I'm
coming.
sorry. No, good meeting you.
Yeah, good meeting you too.
Yeah, take it easy.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to Shovel Knight and Rex Rocket.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's a good one. There's been a rising focus on classic retro franchise reboots on Kickstarter, such as Shantae and James Pond. What is your opinion of this trend?
It's what people want, so
Yeah.
I think it's a good trend. Like those are some of my favorite games. So like, if people want to remake them and bring them back and breathe some new life into them, then more power to them. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's like, have you guys seen those new Mickey Mouse cartoons that they've been showing?
Yeah.
Oh, a couple of friends of mine work on those. They're so good.
They're
Oh
amazing.
my God.
Amazing. It's taking an old thing and making like a new thing out of it. Like they did the same thing with Gianna Sisters. Like the team that made Gianna Sisters, this new one, had nothing to do with the original franchise. They just bought the rights and made the game. And so it's like that Gianna Sisters game is like way better than the original, like in every way. Right?
Nice.
So it's like, I don't know, hopefully things, can be like the Mickey Mouse cartoons, which are just so wild and hilarious and insane. And like Gianna Sisters, where they took something maybe that wasn't the best and made something even better out of it, right? Like I
Really thought it through.
Yeah.
Evaluate the whole thing.
I mean, I think we're pretty biased, right? Like we spent a lot of our careers like remaking classic franchises and like rebooting, like we did like Double Dragon Neon and Blood Rain Betrayal and A Boy and His Blob, and all some like kind of like weird new takes on the old game. But yeah, like I love that stuff personally.
Yeah.
It's also, I don't think it's going to go away. It's definitely something that's easy to sell because it's like hey, it's something that you already love. It's already a built-in audience. I think that the harder thing is to sell something like A Hat in Time, where it's sort of like it's in the same genre, but it's a totally new kind of concept.
Well,
something
like Shovel Knight is kind of like
very similar to
right.
it, yeah.
Like I think we were lucky enough that a lot of the Mega Man audience, just because they were so hungry for Mega Man, saw Shovel Knight and they're like, oh, it's a little Mega Man-esque. Like, oh, I want.
What if Mega Man had the little bouncy Scrooge McDuck thing? I could do that.
And did melee attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really thankful that we came out when we did, like, a few months before the Mighty Number 9 thing came out.
Yeah, I would have
switched.
It
would be weird,
right?
Like just it's over.
Shantae was very lucky in that regard. That
well, I think Shantae got a bump from Mighty Number 9. Like
So many new people in Kickstarter.
Yeah, they cross-promoted with each other. So yeah, I don't know. I think that was kind of good timing, actually.
Yeah, and it will help out in their end too, because as Mighty Number 9 finishes, people are going to like be finished with that, with the that end of that Kickstarter. It's like, all right, now what do I do?
Right.
I might have to go
3
check out.
days
Oh
left
man,
on
3 days for
Shantae.
Shantae.
Yeah.
I was so busy looking at this.
Yeah. So if anybody's listening, maybe we could redirect all the traffic there too.
Yeah.
Well, also it helps that she's cute. So.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, maybe creepily so.
We got another one. Let's see here. Another Ocarina player I know and I got to work with a composer for Journey for one of his iOS games. What would you say to someone who plays an instrument who would like to contribute to an indie game? And let me just go ahead and expand that question to anyone wanting to offer any help in creating an indie game. What do you think would be the best way to go about doing that?
I would say from my personal experience, you have to prove that you can bring something to the table. When I offered myself to all 3 of the games that I'm casting for right now, it consisted of me approaching the developer going, hi, do you want voices in your game? They're like, yeah, if we can afford it. I'm like, okay, good. Let me get you people that don't suck. And they're like, okay, prove it to us. So I'm like, good, give me a character. I will hold an audition with my talent pool, show you what I'm capable of doing, and there you go. And that's how I proved myself to Priamore and Soul Saga and A Hat in Time. And they were impressed enough to be like, okay, yeah, you're on board. And the same case applies to if you're an artist, if you're a spriter, if you're a musician. You have to prove that you can produce good work, you can bring something creative to the table that is appealing to the developer, if they haven't, already gone to you, themselves, or if they're not already, got somebody filled that position or whatever. The best thing to do is to just show that you can bring something really good to the table. That's what I can say.
That is important. It's not only a matter of like if you are talented, it's that you're talented in a way that's useful to that team. You could have like a full giant backlog of music or art or something like that, but if it's not relevant to the game they're making, then they're not going to want to process that stuff.
Well, right.
Like we've had a cool 8-bit game. Like, have you seen my techno song? It's like, well, that's we've had voice voice people at, it's like, hey, do you guys need voices? And it's like, well, maybe, but not for this project. Right.
Yeah.
So
do you need voices for your 8-bit game? Hey, everybody, it's Simpleman. Let's play Dizzy. It's like, yeah, I'm sure that would work.
Something what it is that the team needs and what role you could help them with or that you could contribute to is an important part. But also, just contacting them, speaking with them, and appealing to what it is they would probably need that you can offer.
Well, research that, right?
Yeah,
that's what Jake says. When we'll get music offers a bunch of times, and Jake, he's doing the soundtrack along with Matsumae, so we don't necessarily need music at all. And one of the things that Jake's responding to when people ask him, it's like, well, yeah, you need to look at the Kickstarter or look at the project and what it is, and actually find out what their actual needs are. And if they don't need music, then offering to do music for them or whatever is they're going to respond not well.
Right. Well, I mean, on the other hand, anyone that contacts us, we're trying to be, we want to have a very open process. We want to show people, how we're making games and, share that with people in the hopes that people will become game developers, the same way that we are, make, cool games in the future. So anyone that asks us anything, we're trying to answer everything to the best of our ability, trying to be super helpful and just giving as much information out as we can. So if and I think a lot of other Kickstarter people and indie devs in general would be really accommodating in that regard. So maybe you could also send, if you sent pixel art to a company that you respected and said, hey, this is my pixel art, what do you guys think? Or could you guys give me some feedback or point me in a direction? That's something that I know we would be really happy and willing to do. Not just with pixel art, but with anything, right?
Sure.
So that resulted in us hiring acquiring an intern.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we have an intern who we haven't really introduced to everybody yet. But yeah, he showed us his stuff, and he was talented, and now he's our intern, and he's never had any game industry experience, but he's in there just kind of learning everything, and it's mutually beneficial, We're just there to spread the love with games, so kind of as many people as we could work with, it would be really cool.
Sure. Let me go to another question. let's see. Why do you think the Wii U has had so much indie support, or has supported indie so much? And I guess you could extend that to every platform at this point, because it seems like a lot of different people, a lot of larger companies like Nintendo, like Microsoft, like Sony and whatnot are saying to themselves, we need to support the indie community. So why do you think that is?
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Because they think that will make them the most money.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think it's because Nintendo, has people out there that are just contacted. Like for us, Dan Adelman sent us an email after he saw our Kickstarter, and he asked us if we were interested in working for Nintendo or developing for Nintendo. So I think that's one of the reasons that they're attracting so many people, is that they have a really great outreach program to find new talent. It's something, Microsoft isn't doing it. Sony's not really doing it, at least for us. But, I think Nintendo is, they just want to get good games. So when they see a good game that they want to get on their platform, they reach out to them.
I think it's also sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry.
I was going to say, I think it also is a combination of they want to add more enticing features to the Wii U, and having indie to support is a good way to get the little guy on their side, because Nintendo has always, I think Nintendo has always been relatively accepting and supportive of indie developers, and having the Unity deal with the Wii U is a good way to tie into that. And I think that they have a sensibility of indie game development is a bit of the future of gaming, and I think that just wanting to capitalize on that is smart, because they're the smartest game company out there. So.
Definitely. And Sony, I think, has been doing a decent amount of outreach. They have a pretty good amount of games, both on PlayStation Network and on the Vita, and I'm sure PS4 is going to have a strong lineup of indie stuff too. When I think of art games or hoity-toity indie games, I just think of PSN immediately, right? Because there's just so much stuff like that on there. So I think
hoity-toity. There's something going on with that you want to go a little further into?
I'm going to play the unfinished swan.
All right. Let me do just one or two more, because we're about to hit the hour mark. Do you think that Kickstarter is a good platform to take career risks following one's dream?
Yeah.
That's a simple answer.
Done.
Done. Next question.
I think if you have a really good idea that you 100% believe in, and it's something that you want to do, then, go for it. But, you got to, back to that previous question, you have to do your homework, you have to do your research, crystallize that idea in your head, and then kind of jump for it.
Make sure you don't starve.
Right.
Yeah.
Really, when it comes to Kickstarter, you don't have that much to lose, because if you do a Kickstarter and you don't fund, then it's kind of no harm done, right? Besides the effort that you wasted. Right. And not only that, but if you do it and it gets close to funding, then you can just try it again with a better pitch, or with what
you learned over the month.
Exactly, and you could maybe be successful.
Yep, we've seen that happen a couple times.
Yeah, it's if you're persistent, and if you have something that you really believe in, I think you have a pretty good shot of pulling it off.
I think one of the things too that I can't speak for everyone that does work in YouTube or any other sort of medium online, but for me, something that kind of has me gravitating towards indies and becoming really interested in indies is that the background is kind of the same. Like I said, I can't speak for all YouTubers, but a lot of us, our YouTube career starts at one of the lower points in our lives. For me, I started doing Game Exchange because I was at a point where I was struggling to try and find work, and so I said, forget it. I'm gonna take a shot in the dark and do this project that I think has a lot going for it. And it's been mostly successful, and I kind of see that when it comes to indie developers, where they have a really good idea or something they think is really valuable, and they just go for it. So I don't know. It just feels like the heart behind it is fairly the same.
Yeah, it's as a developer or as a new developer, what you have is time, and what you have to give is effort and love, and people will reward you for that. So I think it's the Kickstarter allows that to happen. Whereas it's as opposed to like finding venture capital or something where you have to sell your soul to get ownership of, or
Art to give up ownership.
Right.
Yeah. Now you just have to sell.
Yeah. I just have to sell. This is great.
Well, do you think we should go and wrap it up, guys, or we got time for one more question?
We can do some more.
Sure. Okay. I was concerned
Actually,
about
can I real quick, because somebody was asking me something directly, can I just answer that in like a millisecond?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, Delunia 13 or 12 or whatever the numbers. Yes, I would love to do a tome game and kickstart it, but I'm trying to gain as much knowledge about how game development actually works before I delve into doing that, because I've only ever been on the outside looking in or been doing menial stuff in games, and I want to make sure that I'm as well educated as possible, which means that everybody else in the Skype call can be expecting to have the shit bugged out of them when I ask them a million questions. I'm doing that when I'm done, but yes, but I would love to do a tone game someday. I would love to do a game someday of my own. So there you go. Anyway. Okay. This day was made good. Anyway.
I guess I'll go ahead and start saying names then. Abustol Powers? That's an interesting name.
Absol Powers, like the Pokemon Absol.
Oh, well, sorry. I'm not Poke savvy.
I only did like 3 episodes of your show about it. Okay.
Yeah, and I got flack for it. Anywho, what Kickstarter game are you guys itching to play that is not your own? I guess this is a dev question.
Volgar the Viking.
It's really fun.
It just came out. We already played it. Yeah, it came out and we played it, but I still want to play it. It's awesome.
There's a lot. That's a really big question. I mean,
Hat in Time looks like I just I don't want to gush about Hat in Time too much, but it just
no, please do.
Please do.
I don't know, just like a 3D platformer with like a Wind Waker-y style aesthetic is what I wanted to do. It just looks really awesome. So I don't know. I'm personally really excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 brothers really excited about to play. And
coming out October.
Yeah. There's
Hyperlight Drifter.
Hyperlight Drifter looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
What was it? Sea Wars looks pretty neat. We plugged a bunch of games during the Kickstarter campaign and all of that.
Yeah,
that's because we were interested.
Because we all want to play those games.
We had the most awareness of all the Kickstarter games during the Kickstarter. There was
Generation 2 or something.
Super Retro Squad was that was an early Kickstarter game, and it was from the guys that did Super Mario crossover.
Really?
And so I kickstarted it a year ago, but they bought a house and then they ran into some development problems and nothing is
house.
Yeah, they all bought a house and they were living in it.
The house was a stretch goal,
Nice.
I don't know, but if that would ever materialize, essentially it would be like Super Mario crossover, except with thinly veiled references to the character. So it's instead of Mario and Luigi, you have 2 German carpenter guys, and instead of Phil Riker, you have some other alien fighting commando, and the mobility for all the characters is the mobility for all of those characters.
It's basically just.
I want to play this.
And you play through NES style platformer levels. So it's basically like Super Mario crossover, but unlicensed. I'm excited for that too.
Yes, please. That.
All kinds of that.
And Mighty Number 9, Shantae, Shovel Knight, all that.
Yeah, we don't even mention those because they're so obvious, so close and obvious. Yeah.
And the one they just talked about, I didn't even know that was the thing, and that sounds fucking great. I want to play that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, guys. I'm sitting here thinking, play all the games. I mean,
all the games.
That's just kind of how I feel about it, and it's cheap enough that you kind of can.
Yeah, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So okay.
Spend $60 on bald, shooty Space Marine Man 78, or spend like $15 on something.
Sidescope the Robot Platformer 79.
79. That is true. Fuck.
I saw way back in the chat. I don't know. We kind of talked about it, and it might just have a really short answer. Do you think that there are going to be people in the future that are really going to try to take advantage of how this program works and basically scam people?
I think they already have been.
Yeah, really.
Not like so scam.
Yeah.
Not official scam.
And it will continue to be, probably.
Totally.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking about
I wanted that beef jerky.
Yeah, did you guys hear about that? Waz, you were close to buying that, right?
I was really close to buying it.
Yeah, it was beef jerky, like super...
There's Kobe beef jerky, and it was like, it's super red because it's super awesome, and I was like, oh, I want it now. 3 days before it ended, it was like, sorry, we're a scam.
It was a scam.
Sorry,
Yeah.
we're a scam.
Sorry, we're a scam.
Update number 29. So yes, I guess that is a risk that could happen.
But if you're a game developer and you do that, then your career will be over, right?
Yeah, you're blacklisting everyone.
Yeah, so it would be so you'd have to make really a lot of money with a Kickstarter, I guess, for it to be worth it.
I think, I think that, it's a risk, though. Like, back to I think the first question, people are willing to enter into a risk. So if you can make somebody believe that, here's your idea and this is what it's going to do, and everybody jumps on board, and then, it vaporizes, there's no way to be held accountable for it, at least right now, so...
You have to be public and out there when you're doing these campaigns. Like,
right.
Like, hey, my name is Ian, and I'm going to tell you about this game I'm making, and here's the game. You have to put so much work into it to actually get that sale that it seems unlikely to me that somebody that could pull that off on such a large scale without producing anything of value in the meantime.
Yeah, I mean, think about Dennis Dyack and the Shadow of the Eternals Kickstarter, right? Like people were aware of Dennis Dyack as some sort of disreputable character, and I think as a result that Kickstarter went nowhere because they just didn't trust him. Whether or not any of that is actually true, like that's not the important part, right?
Right.
And so it's like
the public sentiment pulled down the possibility of it being done.
Right. So if you did a Kickstarter and like screwed everybody over or didn't follow through, I think you'd have a lot of trouble. Well, definitely doing another Kickstarter. Like you'd have no public trust, or maybe you'd even have trouble like working in games, right? Like
definitely.
Right.
If you attached your name to it like that, unless your name is like Mr. Anonymous,
right?
It's and I'm making a platformer.
Yeah.
I need like a couple million.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same. It's the same as like. I don't know. It's the same thing as like, oh, do you think you could? It's like there's so many cars just outside. Like, do you think you could just like steal one and get away with it? It's like, well,
yeah, probably.
Like, yeah, but if you got caught, then you would be disreputable.
Okay, chat. I guess we have time for maybe one or two more. I'm still waiting to see questions come across the screen. I haven't seen too many of them.
Let's see.
Unless, do any of you guys have any general questions for each other? Because that's totally viable.
Well, are there specific hat and time questions that could be answered?
I might be able to. I can't speak for Jonas, but I know things that I guess I could tell you.
Okay. Well, in Banjo-Kazooie, when you collect all, like, it's a collectathon platformer, right? Like it's been referred to as a collectathon platformer.
Yeah.
So in Banjo-Kazooie, like in the first one, there are like 8 or 9 like self-contained worlds, and inside those worlds, there's like a big checklist of stuff that you have to get, right? They're all self-contained. And in Banjo-Tooie, the sequel, it was a mess.
Everything was all interconnected to make it more complex, right?
And I could just not find out where the heck I was going because like one extra layer of complexity that I couldn't handle. So I was. I guess at this point, this is a really loaded question.
I think if I know where this is going, I think that the layout of the game is going to be like there's the 6 levels that they've planned, or 7, I forget how many that they've laid out, and I think that it's going to be set up kind of like a Mario Sunshine kind of thing, where like, but with a little more of a twist to it. Where like, okay, so here's like say you have like I don't know, like X amount of missions, like 7 or 8 or whatever for the Mafia level or the Forest level or whatever, and but with each one, it's like an episode. It's more like it's okay. So this is the mission you're going on. So now it's at night. So because this is happening during this mission, like Mustache Girl is doing this or whatever, So it's set up more like like they're episodes of a story that takes place on that level, and Hat Kid goes around, doing that. And you can collect the hourglasses of however many of that stage, I believe. So I believe that's what it's like. I don't think that there's any actual interconnectivity between the levels, like Banjo-Tooie style. I think it's more like a Banjo-Kazooie kind of thing. But I think also it's like the Mario games where each like the hourglasses or the stars or the shine sprites or whatever. Each one is its own mission, but it's not like like what is it? Bob on Battlefield. You could get the red coin star even though you're on the mission where you have to go fight the Bomb King. In this case, it's like, okay, I'm doing mission number 2 on the Mafia level, and the whole world is built around to befit that mission, based on what the story is what I understand.
I see. Okay, so it's more like a Mario 64 style.
Yeah, exactly. The layout in terms of the getting the items, I believe, is more like a Mario 64 or Mario Sunshine kind of setup, from what I understand.
Cool, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Hat in Time. I have wanted to play a new game like that. I also, which one of you guys said, that was the game I wanted to make. I've wanted to make something like that for so long myself, but God, I can't be mad at Jonas because he and his team they're geniuses. They're just, I don't know how they do it.
Yeah. Well, it's not gonna stop us from doing one in the future.
Well, I mean, by all means,
Yeah, look out, Hat in Time. Shovel Knight 64.
Do you guys want to do a couple more, or do you think we should wind down?
Are there any more? I don't. I'm cool for doing this. So.
We have an obligation at 3, but we could hang out for another few questions, I suppose.
Okay, I just don't want to run over time. So let's see. Kaz the Gamer Guy. I don't know if this is right, but I'll ask it anyway. Mostly for the Shovel Knight devs, do you think your experience at WayForward helped contribute to the planning and success of Shovel Knight, and if so, how?
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. WayForward is where we got, it's basically where we all got our start. It's where our careers happened. So all the experience that we had there,
I would say, WayForward helped in estimating the game we were making, scoping it out, understanding the game. Most of the stuff like the PR and how we were advertising and everything like that, that was more our own intuition.
We really had to kind of take our own lead on PR, marketing, brand stuff. I would say.
But I think because we felt so confident with the game and making the game and all the aspects of it, we were able to focus on this new area and learn the ropes of it as well.
Yeah, well, and we've worked. We've worked on. We've shipped games on all the platforms that we're going to be developing for, so we already have experience with that. And then personally, I've learned a ton just about game design and about directing games and about game development from everybody at WayForward. So
same here for me.
Those guys are good guys, and they're our bros, and we learned a lot while we worked there.
And they make cool stuff.
Yeah, they make good stuff, right? Yeah. Like the platformers that they put together, like Shantae and DuckTales and all that stuff. Yeah. It all just looks good. And,
and they draw really hot women. So
Down, boy.
I just discovered Mighty Switch Force the other day, and I'm just like, why did I not know this?
There's a second one, right?
Yeah, we worked on the second one.
Oh, sweet.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, I was wondering why the second one wasn't out for Wii U. I was a little sad. Let's see. This may be really hard to gauge, but Z2400 says, really, how hard is it to make a game for PC and then try to turn it around and then have it work and function for 3DS and or Wii U, etc.?
Really, really hard.
It is no small task to do that, no matter what you're working on or anything like that.
Yeah.
You have to think about the different
really.
sizes, the different input. The 3DS is the most limiting platform right now, just in terms of memory and processing and what you have to show.
Like Shovel Knight looks like an NES game, but like to do our palettes, we're using shaders. Like we had to write a shader to do palette shifting, and the 3DS may not support that in the way that we need it to. So like now we have to figure out like what the hell are we going to do to get it working.
I think it feels like right now that every game can come out on any platform just by virtue of like a developer like really looking at it for a few minutes.
Yeah, it's
But
not like
it's
that.
not.
It's like doing a whole new project.
Right. The developers are able to make it look like that's what they're doing, but it's still a big deal to do new platforms like that, especially to a portable or a system with severely like different specs.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how difficult it is to do, like when you have like a licensed game based on like a movie or a cartoon or something, and you put it out for like every platform. I can't imagine like how insane that must be to develop for every single. I mean, look at that. Look
Number 9 is they're a PS3, PS4, 360 game. It's going to be great, and it's like also we'll do a 3DS one. But now they have to like reapproach their entire game's visual look, or like see how they're going to possibly scale it down.
Yeah, because it's not like the same thing cannot go onto the 3DS. They're gonna have to redo like every single model in the entire game, if that's or they're gonna have to like what are they gonna do? Pre-render it like how is it gonna look?
It's a unique set of design.
There's serious consideration has to be made for
Right.
each step of the way.
And so yeah, it really is like I mean you don't have to redesign the game most of the time, but like visually you have to redo it, and like technically you have to redo it. And
There is some
And it's
stuff because there is a
like
second screen.
Yeah,
yeah, quality assurance, like extra testing on a different platform.
right. Like I mean that's doing the handheld or doing the lower spec version is always a challenge, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the person asking this question, Sonic is a good example of this, like two extremes. Sonic 06 is the product of, okay, we're developing for 360, and we have to port it to PS3 before the Christmas season comes. Oh, and maybe we're going to do a Wii version. Okay, that didn't work out very well at all for anybody ever. And then Sonic Lost World, which is the newest one, it looks awesome. It's like, okay, we're developing for one console, focusing all of our efforts into that, and we're going to make it exclusive for it, and it'll turn out great. And then, okay, we're going to do a 3DS version also, but we'll have it be done by a separate team, and they'll basically be developing their own game, but using the same engine. It's like, okay, that's smart. I will totally buy into this, and it's going to turn out to be great. So there you go.
Yeah.
You know?
There is something we said for the craftsmanship that you can put into a game when it's only targeting like a specific set of hardware or platform.
Yeah.
But some games can accommodate for multiple and still deliver the same level of quality.
Well, right. Like that's something that we've been thinking about a lot with Shovel Knight is the unique specifics of each platform that we're going to be targeting, and how we can make it cool for that platform without changing the core gameplay experience or anything. So it's like, how are we going to use that second 3DS screen, and how will the gamepad, how will we make really good use of the gamepad for the Wii U version, and things like, Steam trading cards and achievements, and like the cloud and Street Pass and Miiverse and like all this stuff. It's like we want.
We got to get the word
We gotta go. Yeah, we want to do a good job with all this stuff. So I guess that's important.
But yeah, thanks for.
Yep.
Fair enough. CM West Media asks questions to the devs, and I guess this applies to everyone now, except for me. Do you ever struggle to keep yourselves or your teams motivated? What do you think helps things get back on track if that motivation is lost?
Look at other people's cool shit and be like, oh god, I gotta get back to work. I have to do as good as them. Shit.
The guilt works.
Not even so much guilt. I mean, just like you can use that as motivation. Like, oh man, they did awesome. I'm inspired now. I got to do something as cool as that. I got to work harder. Maybe slacking.
Same thing. Like whenever we share fan art or like encouraging messages from the community, that usually reinvigorates us for the day too.
Yeah, and generally, I think.
Hello?
Oh, we lost him.
Awesome.
Okay.
Continue.
No, sorry, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say we have a relatively small team, but overall we've got like 5 people basically in a room, all contributing on different stuff. And between all of us, one of us usually has something going on that's pretty cool. So it's like, oh, look at this cool thing I'm working on, or look at this thing that has been realized that we've maybe talked about before, but like now it's real and you see it in front of you. Or it's like a boss has a different pattern than you imagined, or it's like you see some cool art, or the levels put together, or it's like the new song went in, or it's like like every time just like new art or new illustration or like new cool stuff, right?
And on that front also, we try to keep like a flat team structure, so there's not a lot of, when a decision's being made, it's not a lot of like asserting authority. It's more like making sure everyone like understands why we're moving forward in this direction, and not like nobody's losing buy-in like mentally with the project, where they feel like their hands being forced, or that they're working on something that they don't want to do, or they don't believe should happen.
Right.
That's like a big part in the big picture of the project.
Yeah, and I mean the whole company really, like nobody has said like you have to do this because I said so. It's like if you disagree with like the direction that the game is going, then it's like we all have to kind of like sit down and talk about it until we agree again. Yeah. But I think that makes the game like so much stronger, right? Because we all have a ton of buy-in on it. We're all excited, and
there's no like external publisher or like anything else that's like that are attaching different features or directions that the team doesn't understand or isn't all in on.
Yeah, and we have a fan base that we are pretty like beholden to. Like,
don't want to disappoint them.
Yeah, we don't want to disappoint them, and also they have expectations already. So we can see what they're expecting or what they want out of the game, and kind of like calibrate what we're doing accordingly, right? Like if people thought that this game had like 5,000 items in it, like Dark Souls, then would we start to think like, oh well, like is that a good idea? Maybe there should be more items in here.
At the very least, it'd be a discussion point.
Right? Like we'd think about it. Right? Yeah. Sure. You guys, we really need to get our messaging straight.
Hey guys, I drew this really good Rule 34 fan art of Shovel Knight and Shantae. Do you like it? Oh man, I'm so motivated to work now!
Just toss this shit out there. That probably exists, though.
Probably.
Somewhere.
Yeah, if it doesn't, if anyone's listening, send to media@yacht.
Subject.
Yeah.
I won't look at it.
Too hot for it.
You guys just gave my artist for my show inspiration. I hope you're all very proud of yourselves.
Inspiration. Okay.
Always proud. Full color.
And some lube.
Okay. This one's a bit more of an opinion. K-314 asks, what art style, pixel, cell shading, hand-drawn, etc., would you like to see more in indie games?
I think it would be cool to see, actually. I love 8-bit stuff, obviously, because I grew up with an NES myself. But I've always really loved 16-bit, like Super Nintendo kind of stuff. Just something about like that kind of middle ground is it hits really home. Oh, and also actually, Hat in Time is fulfilling the sort of limited looking like 3D like N64 GameCube kind of look that I feel nobody's done before. So.
I totally agree with both of those. I think 16-bit is a style that's really hard to pull off well. Right? It's a ton of work, right? Like it's an order of magnitude more than the style.
You need really good sprite artists to do that shit and make it like look good.
Yeah, I think even if people try it, it's like a lot of times when I see art that's going for 16-bit, it doesn't really hit that sweet spot where I'm like, oh man, this is like amazing, right? So yeah, some stuff that like really high quality 16-bit would be just really cool.
If you actually, on that note, if you guys did like just completely offhandedly, if you guys thought of doing a Shovel Knight sequel, would you want to do it like a Mega Man 7 equivalent where we're a 16-bit kind of game, or would you want to stick with it?
Yeah.
With cutscenes.
We've thought a lot about doing a Super Shovel Knight that would be 16-bit, and definitely about like a Shovel Knight 64, like a 3D platform.
Oh my god, please! That would be amazing! Dude, pogoing in 3 dimensions, I can dig it.
Oh my god.
That's what we're trying to think through.
Right. It's like
how it would work.
Right. We wouldn't want to just be like, oh, we want to make it like a Mario 64. Like let's give him, well, as much as I would totally love to do that, right? It's like, oh, let's give him a side flip and a long jump and a triple jump. Yeah.
No, but having like the polygonal like kind of not as pretty looking models like an N64. See, okay, you know what? That in particular, there's this one guy on Tumblr. He's called the Regressor. Look him up. He does like 64 style like quote unquote bad looking 3D models of like modern game characters, but they look so cool. And I'm like, oh my god, I would play BioShock Infinite 64 like today. Do that, you know? Like, I think that's something I think a lot of people are not quite like willing to do because it's a really tough middle ground to get anybody like interested in.
Yeah, so, I mean, even if we did like a 64, it would probably look more rounded off, or like more Wind Wakery, or more like it wouldn't. Well, it probably
in the same way that like our game looks kind of NES-y.
Right, but really it's like way.
But really, it's
NES.
Same thing with we probably.
Yeah, but maybe we would still like. Would we want to do like billboard trees? Like no, right? Like we want to do like real 3D trees.
Well, we have to say like would they look like trees that are too real? Like maybe.
Yeah.
We have to talk about it, but that would definitely be the thing to explore. That
right. Like I think a lot about a PlayStation style, and you know how there's that weird like floating point round off where all like the models just kind of look like they're underwater because they're so wobbly because it like couldn't hold itself together, or like when there's a rectangle on screen but like half of it is off screen and the texture just goes like and like stretches like crazy. Right?
We didn't have anything like that.
Like
I think Conquer is a good if you wanted to go that route. Conquer's kind of a good or all the Rareware games even is kind of a good jumping point because I mean just looking back on that, there's so much polish and like good character animation and like programming and all that. It's just and textures that just look fantastic. You could that would be
that's actually a pretty good that would be a pretty good launch point.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like I'm excited for thinking about like how would it work in 3D? Like how would we get the essence of the game across? Like the down thrust and like the digging. Like how would it translate? Right? It would be fun to go on the same journey that so many developers did. Like
translate.
Yeah.
Shut up, Flood.
It would just be fun to do that and kind of like progress our game the same way that it had been done in the past.
Sorry, I'm poking.
I'm just basking in this magic right now. I'm sorry.
This is where dreams come from. It's my childhood in a bucket. Well, maybe not. Let's see. You got another one from Alochi. For the devs, is making mods and maps for already existing games good practice for actual game development?
Yes. Sure. Yeah. You have to think through the same processes. We've been doing a lot of level design lately, and it's pretty much the entire game, like plan in one like level file. You're thinking through like what the player can comprehend, like how much is too much, when to put a power up and things like that. Like it really is working with the meat of the game, like all within one thing.
So using the level tool and making a fun level, like regardless of what. Like if you're doing Mega Man powered up levels for side scrolling,
literally just about to say that.
Exactly. Like that's it's great practice.
Especially if it's more than just like I made a green gun because I wanted, or like I put Halo in BioShock Infinite. Like it's about like how you can make the game funner and actually like add yourself.
Right. But even if you do, just like the guy that or whoever put the portal gun in Minecraft, like they have to do a pretty decent amount of like programming or setup or like they had to install an IDE to get that to work, right? And that in and of itself is a huge accomplishment. So like that's real life experience that you could just apply.
Yeah. And look, you mentioned Exploding Rabbit. I mean, like they rebuilt, they programmed Mario 1 from the ground up. Like, I can't imagine how much you would learn just, like, deconstructing, like, the code of the original first Mario game and just how much you would learn off of, like, doing that yourself, like, just doing it from the ground up, and incorporating a control scheme of, like, 7 or 8 other completely different styles of characters from different games, and putting them into one that they didn't originally come from and making it work. Like, it's huge, you know?
Just thinking through it all is a great design exercise, and actually executing on it. I mean, if you've done something like that, then you could show that to anyone if you were interested in working together on a project or something.
The great part with a mod or like a level mapping is that the players already have expectations for what a high quality map is, and they'll compare yours to it whether you like it or not.
Right.
So even if you put out like a multiplayer map, you know, people will think like, oh, there's like a lot of camping spots. Like, did you think of that?
Right.
Like, when I'm playing through the single player thing, I get confused and lost.
Right. I get
because
lost
I just don't
here.
know what's going on.
And can you make a portal map that people like could get frustrated with and then have fun with, and overall felt really good about? Like, that's such a difficult balance, right? Like, even with Portal, it took them like a couple of years to make like a handful of maps. So if you can make a good one, that's like great on you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Well, chat, anything else? Scroll back through here.
We're kind of nearing towards the end of this point.
Yeah.
Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures, yes, buy it. Burning Sands, I hear it's good. And support James Rolfe, because he's a fantastic creative and a good person. So.
Cool. Yeah, we haven't played it yet, but it looks pretty intense.
Yeah. John Tron was plugging it on the Denino Gaming stream last night, and he said it was pretty sick. So, and I trust his opinion.
Awesome.
I'm going to echo John Tron's opinion that isn't my own because I'm a sheep.
I guess something real quick, and then we'll go ahead and wind it down because I know you guys have other things to get ready for and do. When developing a game, and this really is for all three of you, what do you think is the hardest aspect to put together?
I think the overall idea is probably, you know, like what is the big picture of the game? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to convey to people? The type of gameplay. It's a lot of like, you know, very very detailed things. Yeah, I think getting the overall picture clear.
Yeah, knowing exactly what your game is and making sure that you have a clear vision of it in which to execute it. Because once you have the idea, doing it, I mean, that's the fun part. It's a lot of hard work, but that's, you know, you're going to have a solid product by the end of it if you have a clear vision of it. Something I learned, I'm going to tell a little quick story. I met this gentleman, Miguel Neves. He's the director of a company called Dragon's Den, and he's programmed a ton of games. He's a really talented, really good guy. And a couple of years ago, I was at a con, and I was hanging with him and a bunch of other people, and I wanted to do Tome, my web show, as a game at the time. I originally wanted to have it be like an episodic platformer, and have like every episode of the story be like a couple levels and a boss fight or whatever. And the conversation where I was explaining to him the basic idea of it, he kept asking me one distinct question, like through conversation. It's, Chris, what is your game? And I realized, as I was trying to describe it, I couldn't actually answer that question as to what was my game. And then I realized, I'm not trying to make a game. I'm trying to tell a story through a game, and that's a mistake, because the game needs to be a game first and foremost, beyond anything else. And so, through I mean, unless it's like, you know, there's exceptions obviously that have done that very well, but for the most part, it needs to be a game, like first and foremost, and story cannot come before that. So I thought about that. I'm like, okay, you're right. And so then I decided I'm going to do it as a show, because I'm trying to tell a story and not, I haven't come up with a unique and fun game experience. And then over the course of a few years, I thought about it. I'm like, oh, I've got it. Now I have an idea for how to use this world that I've built through the show and make it a gameplay experience that is unique and fun. And you know, then I started writing a design doc for it. So, and that was only because I had time to think about what is the game? What am I doing? What is the clear vision for this? What is the gameplay? What is the scope of everything? Like, you have to know exactly what it is you're doing, because if you just say, I want to make a game about space Nazi zombies and they fight this guy, it's like, that's a story. That's not a video game, you know? Yeah. So, right. Like, I can guarantee the Yacht Club guys did not be like, what if there was a knight and he had a shovel and he just bounces around and he has to go fight the guy that calls horns on the screen, and then he saves the princess. I don't even know if there's a princess, probably not. Right. And then, like, they didn't build a game design document off of that. They, like, you know, I meant the answer for you guys, but you didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, we built Shovel Knight around a singular mechanic, right? Which was the down thrust, and then the shovel idea and everything all came from that. So I'd say that that spark of it was like getting started on the idea for the mechanic for Shovel Knight was pretty easy. Like we had the character in a pretty he hasn't changed that much from pretty early in the development as far as like how the mobility goes and everything. Like we nailed that down pretty easily.
Yeah.
Like we had to iterate on it a ton, but I'd say like we got that part solid early on, and maybe I think the difficult part for us was after we built that demo that we had for PAX, where the one that you're talking about, where you go through Pridemoor in that single stage and you fight King Knight at the end, and it was a great demo, but that was all that we had. So we had this demo put together, and it was good, and everyone liked it. We got a lot of press from PAX, and everyone was super excited. But then we had to build the rest of the game, and it was like how is the rest of the game going to be compared to the demo? Is the demo like how is the difficulty work, or this is too shallow or it's too easy because it's built to be done in 7 minutes. So how do we expand that out into our full game concept? It was like we did a vertical slice, which is it's like a game industry term that's like you build one level of the whole thing and it appears as if it's done, and usually a publisher uses that to decide whether or not they're going to cancel your game, right? But in our case, it was the same. It was the same. Will you be able to make it or not? So that part was pretty tough. I think when you get to
how to extend it.
Yeah, when you get to the 30%, between 30 and 40%, I think that's when the game is the hardest for me.
Fair enough. Oh, did we lose him again?
No, I think they're just.
Sorry, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got you. Sorry, there's a little dip. I guess we wrap it up.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up. So.
I'm sorry. No, you guys weren't done. I'm sorry.
Oh.
No. We basically it's just in the early in the 30%, 40% stage. I think that's when it's really tough.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys agree.
No, I think that's true. That's when most discussions about what mechanics are useful, what should we cut, what should we add.
Yeah, this just isn't fun, or this isn't gonna pan out, you guys. I'm freaking out.
Me, the last 10% is the hardest.
Is it?
Because either the game is not good and you're worried it's not going to be good when you finish, or the game is good and you just the energy to finish it is not there because the creative part is gone by that point.
Right. You're just trying to get it done.
It's just when you walk into the corner for 5 minutes it crashes. How do we we gotta fix that?
Oh yeah.
This is really fun.
That part's really hard. Yeah, that part's hard too.
And all you want to do is make the next game at that point.
Right.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up there. So thank you everyone for coming to the stream. Thank you to Yacht Club Games, Chris, Rob. It was a wonderful pleasure having you guys here.
Totally. Thanks for having me.
All right. And thanks a bunch for tuning in, guys. See you next time.